thing. We've gone through it, and in the midst of still going through it, just got a text from another team and agent. Yeah, so it's still ongoing. So just a little bit about my background, and from the professional side, do a lot of work with, been doing more work with high school students, college and professional athletes, as far as investing, managing their money, and preparing them for the future.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Erlease Wagner. I'm the Deputy Athletics Director, Senior Women Administrator at Morgan State University. My primary area of focus at Morgan is student-athlete experience. I oversee the academics, compliance, and the liaison to the enrollment management space on Morgan's campus. I've been at Morgan now since October 2015. Some of you may remember during that time period, it wasn't a stellar time for Morgan State Athletics. I came in with then Athletic Director Dr. Scott to help clean up the academic situation at Morgan.
Got it, thank you. So, picture this, everybody. Your child signs a contract without telling you, right? What's the first step you take as a parent?
So I would say, kind of even before that, and we talked about this a little bit in the previous session, make sure as parents you got a team together and talk to your kids about what's going to happen before they go on campus, because they are going to be signing contracts. They're going to be signing things there. You want to have somebody to look over that stuff, or you want to educate your son or daughter that, hey, before you sign anything, have someone read over it. And if they call you and text you to say, I just signed this paper, you want to make sure you get on the phone to somebody, some attorney, to say, hey, so-and-so just signed this. Can you look over it? Because there is time to make changes when you do sign something. So make sure if you get that text or call from your son and daughter that they have signed something, get it right away, get a copy of it right away, and get it to an attorney ASAP so they can read over it and understand what it is they signed.
So, but before we get back to that, let me tell you all, one of the first things, even in our story, when Tanya and I had decided to get, Jordan was still living, he was in the hospital fighting for his life, and when Tanya and I decided to get some type of legal representation, you know, at this time we really weren't thinking the worst, but we knew this was something of significance and we needed legal representation. And one of our guests, Delegate Malcolm Ruff, who's currently running for senator, was supposed to be here, but he got caught up and our schedules just got misaligned. However, as soon as we walked into the attorney's office, the very first question that he asked Tanya and I was, do you have a power of attorney for Jordan? Tanya and I looking clueless at this point because we're steady saying, what for? Jordan still calls home to ask for permission to go out on the weekends. And we didn't, and Malcolm's words were verbatim, well, he's 18, he's emancipated, right? Didn't even know what emancipated really meant in a sense, but legally, you know, they don't have to give any information up on us. So this is the whole purpose of that. A lot of things in our story, the way what we want to share with everybody, because things we had to learn the hard way. You know, luckily Jordan was in Maryland. If we had chose Alabama or Auburn or Penn State or all the other schools that were after Jordan, it would have been more of a challenging situation. Luckily, he was only 45 minutes up the road in the hospital versus a day's trip away or a flight away or a 12-hour car ride away. So you see the significance of protecting your child when it comes to this. So safeguarding against predatory contracts, Nick. So you were just talking about that. Agents and man, street agents, this is a reality, right? And it's unfortunately common. How do you protect yourself from these types of things?
So what I always tell people, and as I'm living it right now, kind of let me set the stage of what happens. If you're a parent that hasn't gone through it yet with your child, you're going to go through it if they're an athlete, no matter what level they are. Especially with social media, people are going to find your child. And they're going to talk directly to them. That's not just coaches, that is the agent, that's people offering NIL stuff. That's why it's very important as a parent and as parents that we have those conversations with the kids. Before you say anything, talk to us. And that's the conversation we had. Our son, and because he was getting calls left and right, he would text me, Dad, this person wants me to do NIL. look at it. I'm like, who is this company? What are they? No, we got to get the attorney to look at it. This doesn't make sense. So definitely you want to have somebody on your team that's a legal person that can help you navigate that, because it's going to come very fast. And remember, we're talking about teenagers here, and we're talking about high school, so sometimes these can be 15, 16-year-olds getting a text message about some NIL deal. They get excited. If you do this, we'll give you a percentage of whatever you sell. They just use the code because they're going to make it seem very simple. Tell your friends, use this code. And I had to sit down with my son and say, okay, so you tell your friends to use this code to get this product. And what if, one, they never get the product? Two, they get the product and it's garbage. Who are they going to be mad at? You. And so that's why we have to sit there and look at it from the standpoint that if you're going to be an ambassador for this brand, you have to understand it. And there are a lot of people that are out here taking advantage of high school students because they don't know better. And it's fine, they're not supposed to know better because they're teenagers. But this is why, Marty, thankful for what you're putting on here in the Jordan McNair Foundation, because these are the things that as parents we have to know and understand, because your child could sign up for some type of NIL and you don't even really know about it half the time. They could be doing something because of social media. They're out there doing something and you don't know about it till something comes up. And then as a parent, you're to blame as well. And to touch on Marty, which you said, which is very important, once your child turns 18, you do need to get the power of attorney done. Because as you said, if you go into that hospital, your child's 18 or 19, even though you're the parent, they're an adult. So you're not going to be able to make the decisions that need to be made. And you're not going to get the records. You're not going to be able to handle things. So definitely as you're getting to that stage, you want to get the right legal advice, get the power of attorneys done so that you still can make decisions.
Yeah, thank you. Erlease, so you and I talk a lot, and it's always we're trying to put out a fire. Just my opinion, and I'm asking you your opinion when it comes to this. What are things that parents should know in regards to safety at the next level? Because our parents, one of our parents mentioned the FERPA waiver, right? Can you speak to that? And I think one of the main things, family, is let's talk about the bad side of things. And because I want to kind of teach everybody to have an in the event of mindset, right? Like a lot of times we can't always say, hey, this is going to be, peaches and cream of the situation. Guess what? They're going to sign our names. I've seen high school assign parents' names when it comes to playing after they're injured or whatever the case may be. So our kids, let's not just act like they won't do this. When there's money involved, again, they're going to sign some if we don't have that influence over them. But a lot of times we just can't rely on that alone. Like, hey, you do what I say because I said do it. Sometimes we have to go ahead, another parent made, I don't trust nothing, I'm not going to leave. We can't leave adult decisions up to young kids or young people. They can't make adult decisions because they don't know enough about life to make adult decisions. And these people are sliding adult decisions, things in front of them, and this is the reality of that, right? So we want to ensure that we have an in the event of mindset, and that if you don't take anything away from some of the things, having an in the event of mindset. So Erlease, back to FERPA, and please everybody grab a copy of my book on the way out the door, both books. But I talk about in the book how a friend of mine was out of town, her son went to Tennessee. He wasn't a student athlete, went down, fell in love, and literally had flunked out and had came back home 2 or 3 times and she didn't even know. Can you speak to that really from a collegiate perspective and how important the FERPA waiver really is?
Well, I'll say first, I'll put it in two frames. Present day, I would say the majority of our students that I encounter, one, the parents are doing the applications, the parents are creating the passwords, the parents are filling out any information regarding the student. The disconnect comes when the information isn't coming through the student's email. So the parents are signing them up for classes, the parents are selecting whatever it is that comes through the email communication. Parents have declared the major, they've done all of that. Student comes on campus and says, hey, I'm not interested in engineering. I'm not even good at math. right? I don't want to do engineering. I want to change to something else. So the parent calls and says, hey, I was looking at my child's schedule and they're not signed up for the classes that I picked, right? Well, I can't help you with that. You need to go to the registrar's office, fill out the FERPA, the Buckley Amendment, to get access to their records. Keeping in mind that the parent is going to fill out this FERPA request to get access to their profile. The challenge is now it's in DocuSign, and on most campuses it's no longer a piece of paper. So it's floating through email. And then once it hits the student's account, the student can see the DocuSign and the parent can see the DocuSign because they're in their accounts. The student can then go to the registrar's office and restrict the access. So just because you have a FERPA or a Buckley Amendment that gives you access to information does not mean it's carte blanche, because the student controls that access. So when you say, oh, well, I did the DocuSign on August 1st, and I asked for access to everything, the financials, the academic, the disciplinary, everything, and then the response is yes, but on August 5th, that access was restricted. Once a student turns 18, they control all private information surrounding their existence. If it's not in a public space, you don't have access to it. Part of that goes back to communication. Are the parents talking to the students to really understand what's going on? Why do you want access to my information? You know, the students have a lot going on and they're talking, you know, why do you want access to that? Why can't you wait for me to tell you? Right? So part of that is a conversation of, well, sometimes I can't wait for you to tell me, because by the time you tell me, it's too late and an emergent situation has already happened, passed, or it's become complicated because I didn't know. But it's important to have those conversations, because while the parent may have the passwords, they may have done the applications, they may have done the forms, it's the student that controls that information. They can then go in and restrict the access you just gave to yourself. But if you want access to know how they're doing in their classes, where they're living, what they're taking, what their majors are, if they're having challenges on campus, you really need to have conversations with your son or daughter to help them understand why you need the information. You're not just spying on them. You can do that on the phone with the tracker app, but you're not just spying on them, but you're trying to help them navigate this space. And so you need to have that information. Sometimes students don't want to give it to you because they're embarrassed by what's happening on campus, some of the choices that they may have made that you may not be aware of, or the family has talked, going back to engineering, and the entire high school, junior high school career, parents have said why it's so important for you to be an engineer, because this is something I want for you, and the student doesn't have the mindset to say, I really don't want to do engineering. I want to go into global media or something, or I want to go into some other aspect of a professional career, and I don't want to disappoint you, so they don't want to share. There's a lot that goes into that, but if you want access to know that your son or daughter is in engineering and they're flunking out, or they're not even a student there anymore because they've been academically dismissed, or Judicial Affairs has dismissed them, they can't be on campus. If you want that information, you've got to have a good relationship with your son or daughter, and you have to have those communications early and often.
You just answered 5 questions.
Touch on that real quick. And I'll say, from a parent aspect, we all know our kids. All right. I got 2 boys.
Repeat that, Nick.
We all know our kids. I got 2 boys. The oldest, pretty all right. The youngest, oh boy, it's gonna be some work on him. And so you got to know your kids. And communication through this whole process is the key. And you've got to drill that in, no matter what level, is D1, D2, D3, JUCO, whatever you're doing. You got to drill that communication. If it's not you, another parent, if it's a sibling, somebody, they've got to feel comfortable going to somebody with that, because it is tough. They're going to get on campus and they're expected to they've got to get up early for practices, they've got study hall, they got to get to classes, and there's so much coming at them. They're not going to be able to deal with all of it. And so they've got to have somebody to talk to when those things come up. Like you said, we've drilled in there to be an engineer. They get to college like, I don't want to do this. And so we as parents, it's a scary time. And I'm speaking personal experience right here. As I said, my son is leaving in January to go. It is scary as I don't know what. But a lot of it is prayer. A lot of it is trust, conversation. And now's the time to be honest. The tooth fairy, all those conversations are gone. It's time to be honest, straight up conversations with these kids, because they're going to be away on campus with a lot of stuff. And you got to tell them what life is going to bring you and be able to say, hey, these are people you turn to for help if you need it. And don't be afraid to ask for help.
Thank you. Now, even in regards to, I think for us, and I talk about where we were, this is what I always tell people. When the coaches were sitting at our kitchen table 3 days prior to signing day, Tanya, was it 3 days prior to? And literally, I asked 2 questions. Can he get some playing time, number one? And the coach said, hey, if Jordan comes to camp conditioned, he can apply for a job. And my second question was around mental health and substance abuse support. Now, keep in mind, this is 9 years ago. However, I never thought to ask anything else. Like, what could possibly go wrong at a Big Ten school? Everything, literally. If it didn't, we wouldn't be sitting on stage with this movement right now. But again, as parents, we just always think that, because the coach said, I do remember, hey, we'll take care of him like he's one of our own. And unfortunately, that wasn't the case in a sense. But as we're so trusting as parents, so here we are in our story. When Jordan passed, a young man that passed at Morgan State, Marquise Meadow, heat-related injury, some years 2014. And again, really somebody told us that, hey, that the school has a insurance policy on Jordan. The NCAA has an insurance policy on Jordan, right? Not to say we didn't know, but not to say it wasn't in the fine print, but who read that? So a lot of times when you look at catastrophic injuries and things like that, nobody has an in the event of mindset. We don't like to think in the event of, but in reality, we have to. So NCAA had an insurance policy on all student athletes in regards to catastrophic injuries, major medical injuries or worse. The school has a health insurance, a life insurance policy, right? Who knew that? Like, who even remembers signing that, in a sense? In our case, Tanya did the majority of the paperwork, not saying that she did anything wrong. So when we're calling and we're saying, well, hey, we heard that there's an insurance policy, even in the athletic department, they're saying, okay, well, like they didn't even know. Like, oh, let us check and think, oh yeah, there's a policy. So again, the more educated that we are when we go into these situations, a lot of times we don't expect the worst to happen, but we always have to have an in the event of mindset that something can happen, and the potential for it to happen is probably higher than we would ever think, in a sense. So these are things that really are the benefits of coming to KOBY Summits or getting this information earlier. So
Marty, let me touch on that for a minute, because there are a couple things that have changed in that. So yes, the school has it, but as parents, but also the athlete, they can have their own policy. So it used to be mainly for, and a lot of it was called draft protection. We would do it a lot for athletes who were getting ready to go into the draft. You would get a policy to protect them if they got hurt or injured, or if their draft value went down. So they were predicted to be a first rounder. They got injured. They were a second round. They went in the second round. There was a payout that the athlete would get because of that. That's now shifting because of the whole NIL piece, that now athletes going into college, from high school to college, can get protection as well. So if they get hurt or injured while they're playing in college, there's payouts that they can get for that as well. Also, other than catastrophic, there's the life insurance piece. So definitely, you want to get it for your son or daughter early as possible, because they're going to be athletes. They could get injured. Insurance is based on your age and your health. So if your son or daughter gets a bad injury in college, that could preclude them later on down the road from getting any type of life insurance coverage. So you want to get it early, get something in force, and on the life side, but also for the catastrophic side as well, to protect them if they do get hurt or injured while playing ball. And there are different companies that do that. A lot of it's issued through a company, Lloyd's of London, that specializes with not just athletes, but entertainers as well. So there are different type of coverages that are out there for that.
Yeah. So Nick, question for you. So we can say all these different things that, you know, and I'm an insurance guy too, so Claire, I just remember that makes sense for you. However, as a parent, you know, because again, keep in mind, this is a lot of times some people's in the audience first time hearing this. Like, how do we where's our resource at? Because I've been telling people forever, get power of attorneys ever since Jordan passed, until finally one lady asked me, well, how do I go about doing it? Now we got AI and all these things, so you could kind of be a little bit more definitive in your direction in regards to whether it's state specific, if they're out of state or whatever the case may be. But where can parents really go for resources or something like that? Where they reach out to somebody like you, get your card or something like that?
Yeah, so definitely, we talked about this in the last session. You know, you've got your, you know, accountants, attorneys, financial planners, agents, whoever helping with you. Your team should be able to navigate that for you. What we're seeing now, and actually a friend of mine that's an attorney, and I saw she's been advertising a lot, not just for student athletes, but anybody going to college to get that power of attorney, because anything can happen whether you're an athlete or not. So we're seeing more and more people talk about that now, because a lot of people didn't. I know when I went to college, my parents didn't get anything. I was doing whatever I wanted to do. They didn't know. So that wasn't even talked about or thought about then, but now more and more people are doing that. Definitely, once again, if you're, you know, everybody's here because, you know, you're a parent of an athlete, it's a specialized thing. You know, you can't look at this as just my son and daughter is going to college and we treat it the same. You can't treat everything equally. You've got to look at this like, hey, my son and daughter is going here no matter what level. We've got to look at this more from a business mindset, not just going register for classes and they're going to go do what they do for school. It's a whole different scenario. And so you've got to look and ask for help and reach out to people. So like your foundation, other people, you know, look online, find somebody, you know, that you can trust to help you navigate some of the things that are out there, because you're not going to think about it. You're busy. My baby's getting ready to go to school. Did we got this? Did we got that? All this stuff is happening. And you're just not going to think about it. And it's overwhelming. You know, my wife's a CPA. I'm a certified financial planner. It was overwhelming for us. We both own our own businesses, and it was driving us crazy, the whole process. So from a business standpoint, if it can drive us crazy, if you're not used to numbers or anything like that, it will understandably drive you crazy, because it's a lot.
Let me add a point to that. Okay, so I'm going to wind it back just a little bit and talk about the overall recruiting process. When you're having conversations with the coaches, with on campus, etc., the recruiting process goes two ways. Just as much as the institution is recruiting you, vetting you, watching how you move, the decisions you make, your engagement with your children, their engagement with you. Are they respectful, not respectful? What does that look like? How does your child engage with members of the team? You're doing the same thing with them. You want to know how the coaches engage with each other. If you get fortunate enough to have a significant other of the coaches go with you to dinner, how does that individual engage with their significant other? Because you want to make sure that institution is going to be a good fit for you, your values, and what you think is important, and who you're entrusting your child to for what should be the best years of their life. College should be the best time of their lives, period. During that recruiting opportunity is when you should ask the questions about the care. When someone says, I'm going to treat your child like they're my own, I don't know you. What exactly does that mean? How do you treat your child? And at the same time, that's the opportunity when you're doing your tour. What does their sports medicine space look like? Is it big? Is it small? Even the smallest spaces can provide the best care. But what does it look like? The people that are in there, their body language when you walk in. Are they excited when you walk in, or do their shoulders slump when you walk in? As you're watching the students come and go, or do they have that big sigh, someone else is coming in? That's going to speak to the quality of care that your child receives. When you go in and they say, well, we have a partnership with Hospital X or Physician Y, their family care, the ortho, the dental, the different types of care, ask them who provides the mental health services. At this point, pre-house around COVID, when student athletes had the opportunity to have a voice within the leadership of the NCAA structure, one of the big points they highlighted was mental health. My coach doesn't care about my mental health. My university doesn't care about my mental health. I've asked to see someone and I can't get an appointment with anyone. I've been told I can wait 2 or 3 years, right? So what is their method to provide the care of mental health, and what does that look like? So we talk about the school has insurance. The insurance policy is a secondary policy. The state of Maryland schools, we're all in the same policy together. So state of Maryland, we all have the same secondary provider. And the reason why the state put us all in the same policy is to make it cheaper for the state. But anyhow, we all have the same secondary provider.
State schools, be definitive in state schools.
State schools. So Morgan, Coppin, College Park, Towson, UMBC, Frostburg, we all have the same secondary policy. We're all in the same policy. It's just a different branch for the different campus. But it's a secondary. So the primary means, if it's secondary, that means there's a primary somewhere. So long gone are the days where the parents would send their student athlete to college and then cancel the health insurance policy. Because if you cancel the health insurance policy, your son or daughter is now uninsured in the state of Maryland. Because the athletics is secondary.
So a parent's health insurance is primary.
Is primary. Some of the Maryland schools, if the parent drops the health insurance policy, the Maryland schools will drop in their insurance policy onto the bill automatically. Morgan is one of those schools. When you get your admissions packet, it says Morgan requires that you have valid health insurance in the state of Maryland. You can opt out of that insurance, but you must have valid health insurance. So then the question becomes, whatever your situation is, if you're going out of state, you're going to Virginia, you're going to North Carolina, you're going to Alabama, wherever you're going, what is their policy regarding health insurance? When I worked at my last institution, parents would cancel their students' health insurance policies, but our institution would pick it up, primary and secondary. But what is your school's plan to cover you? And if you don't have a primary, keep in mind when your son or daughter, I hope it never happens, goes out to downtown, goes out and parties and something happens, they're uninsured without a primary health insurance, because a secondary policy asks for the incident report, the date, the location. If it's not athletically related, your son or daughter is uninsured for whatever that injury may or may not be. And it could have serious consequences to their ability to participate in athletics or be a student on that campus. So it's important that that's part of the conversation. And so there's so many layers to the health insurance. You mentioned the catastrophic injury. And I was telling Marty, that's not something we really talk about on our campus, but the information is available because we have to provide it. So if there is that injury, there is that policy that covers all NCAA student athletes for catastrophic injuries. You just hope it doesn't happen to anyone on your campus or someone that you know. But the policy is available. It's available on the website, and it covers the deductible to access it is the $90,000. So the deductible, you're saying, well, who's paying the first $90,000, right? So is that the primary, the secondary, the two go in tandem? But at the same time, with the primary and secondary, oftentimes there's a deductible on your health insurance. During your recruiting visit, what did your program say about your deductible? Who's paying the deductible on the primary when it's billed? Is the institution covering it, or are they passing it to the student? So when you look at the catastrophic injury, who's paying that $90,000 deductible? It covers up to the $20 million, but who's covering that first 90? If that's, when you're talking about insurance, those are conversations that you have to have, because you need to know where the money is coming from to cover whatever may or may not happen to your son or daughter.
Thank you. And we experienced all of that. So in conclusion, and family, let me tell you all this. It is so easy to get caught up in the bling that you won't think about none of these questions. First time we went to Ohio State, let me share this funny story with you. I started going into the Twilight Zone, just getting caught up in all the championship rings and no, let me back up. They know how to get your child, flat out. flat out, flat out, flat out. Now they know even more so because there's money involved, but they know how to get your child. That's what they do best, right? Don't let them get you from the perspective of without asking questions, because I've gotten caught in that situation where, you know, the championship rings and the possibilities of all these will get a parent. You can get overwhelmed in these spaces. So please, you know, it's more than just the bling. Look beyond the bling. Look and ask the right questions. You know, always take somebody with you throughout the recruitment process, so you'll just have another set of unbiased ears. Because after a while, once you visited so many schools, all of it sounds the same. Probably now, the big difference is obviously the amounts are different. But in regards to prior to this, the pitch was all the same. It was like listening to a used car salesman over and over again. So always kind of just have a good mindset with that. So in wrapping up, everybody, protecting your child isn't just about sports. It's about setting them up for the safeguards that last long after the game ends. Any final words, Nick and Erlease?
You know, I would say, Marty, you touched on it. Going through the process, their job, and they spend millions of dollars to do this, is to recruit and recruit well. Take somebody with you. That's important. You know, my wife and I, we went on every visit. I was the mean, angry person. She was the bubbly, fun person. And so I was the one, I pointed out everything wrong. She said, why are you always being so negative? Because that's what I'm going to do. You can be fun and bubbly. I'm going to point out everything negative, so we have a balanced approach to this. You want somebody like that who's not going to get caught up in the bling, because they're going to feed you, they're going to love you. You can't move without somebody being attached to you. It's like you're trying to go to the bathroom and they're right there at the door when you come in and out the bathroom. Somebody's going to be on you all the time. That's their job, is to make it feel like it's the best place ever, and they do it well. And also remember, it's like dating. You don't always hear the truth. A lot of times you hear what you might want to hear, and they're going to tell you what you want to hear. And that's their job to do that. Kind of just flipping it on the protection side, you know, definitely there, you know, as we said earlier in the last session, your son and daughter's a corporation. No matter what level they're at this point, it's a corporation, it's a business. You have to protect it. You have to invest in it, you have to protect it, you have to grow it. And those are the key things that when you're looking at doing this, it's a lot. You're not expected to know it all. That's why we have professionals here to help guide you through it.
My suggestion is similar to the model of a corporation. The recruiting process is like investing your money. Coaches look at the recruitment process as an investment. High risk, low risk, no risk. Risk and reward. Look at this process as an investment. How would you want your money spent? I get it's your child, you don't want to look at them that way, but the process is like investing money. Would you buy a house in this particular community, or would you buy a house by the water with water erosion and there's signs up saying in 10 years this street is no longer going to exist? Would you buy a house in that location? Look at recruiting and the recruiting process as an investment. Is this where you want your son or daughter to spend the next 4 to 5, maybe 6 years of their life? And is it going to be a good experience for them? At this point, we're in the space where, yeah, you can change. You can go to this school, you can go to that school, you can go to this school, and you can hop around. And if the investment didn't work out the first time, great, I'm gonna go to the next one, and I'm gonna change my marketing strategy. You can hop around, but keep in mind, each time you hop, your son or daughter is losing something. It could be the academic credits, could be the relationships, could be the patients, could be the mental health, could be just the overall quality of their experience. But look at it as an investment, and is this where you would want to spend 5 years, 6 years of your life and with these people? Do your homework on what those people look like, how they move in the space, how they treat the people around them. When you go to other parts of campus, ask the questions. Does this program have a good relationship on campus? Or is the coach one of those coaches that when he hits the building, the alarms go off, everybody's doors shut, and no one will talk to them? It says a lot about what the experience is going to be. When you walk into a space to meet with academics, sports medicine, strength conditioning, the support staff, when you walk in, do they slump their shoulders down when the coaches are moving in that space? Do they look eager to engage, or is it just another task or duty that they're doing at that point in time? If they're not invested in your son or daughter's experience, their experience is going to be 10 to 20 times worse than that once they get there. But do your homework in that process and talk to some of the parents. A lot of times you'll see the parents in the stands during the visits. There are certain parents that are close to the recruits and the parents. There are certain parents that are not. There's a reason why the knots are not together with everyone else. But I would do my homework. If it's my son, it's my daughter, they are my pride and joy. Make sure their next 5 to 6 years represent the pride and joy that you feel for your son or daughter. You don't want them to call you and say, hey, mom and dad, come pick me up. Hey, mom and dad, I need to open up my recruitment. Hey, mom or dad, this is what's happening. Hey, mom or dad, this is my experience. And it's not what you thought would be happening to your pride and joy. It is a business. It was at one point, we used to say it was $1 million business. This is a multi-billion-dollar business on multiple fronts. Students have access to the same cachet now that the coaches have. When you look at, we can all talk about pro sports, right? Okay, I'm gonna be real quick. Pro sports, you hear the coaches complain they don't want to be at this program because the athletes make more than them and the experience is shitty, the dynamic is bad. That's the same thing now in college athletics. The kids are making more than the coaches.
Yep.
What does that experience look like when it's flipped, right? Just something to keep in mind. What is that feeling in that locker room? Because that's where your kid is going to be for the next 5 to 6 years.
Thank you. Give them a round of applause, man. Thank you, Erlease. Thank you, Nick. And we're rolling on to the next session. All right. Thank you, everybody.